This is Adam with AdvancedDimensions.com. Today we're going to look at the Leica 3D DISTO, the Leica 3D DISTO Windows software, and you're going to get an idea of how the unit works. The Leica 3D DISTO is a laser measurement tool that is specifically made for fabrication. There's a lot of other laser measurement tool technologies or laser measurement technologies that are becoming more popular and becoming something that you'll probably see if you're researching this tool. But the Leica 3D DISTO is unique in the sense that it's made specifically for more the fabrication setting than the design setting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of give you an overview of the unit. I'm going to give you an overview of the software. And this is not going to be a detailed, instructional situation where I'm going to give you step-by-steps on a lot of things. We have training videos that are set up for that. This is more going to just be an overview to give you an idea of what the unit is, how the unit works, and to help in your research of figuring out if this is going to be a good tool or a good fit for your company or your situation. So just to give you a little bit of a background about myself, I actually come from a woodworking background. I went to school for woodworking. I graduated. I started building cabinets at the bench. With my skills in AutoCAD, it landed me at an office, long story short, landed me an office job and in a commercial cabinet shop, commercial architectural millwork, custom, you name it, we did it. And I did CNC programming, I did shop drawings, I went out and measured field surveys, you name it, I've done it on that side of things. So then I started my own business in 2009 and doing shop drawings and doing field surveys for customers, not using the 3D DISTO yet. And I branched out and became a dealer for Leica because of the success that I had just using their handheld tools. And then eventually I became a dealer for the 3D DISTO. So we've been selling this for about 8 years now. It's a fantastic tool. We actually don't just sell the unit. We go out in the field and we do field surveys for customers as well. We have a lot of customers that might not have the funds to purchase a unit, but they have a project that could work for it that might not justify the entire cost, so they'll hire us instead. We have customers that maybe don't want to do the work and they want to hire it out anyway, so we do the work for them. We do a wide variety of work. And we found excellent success with this unit. I am fully confident in the measurements that come from it. I'm fully confident in the work that I not display, but the work that I present to my clients. It's just been a fantastic tool, and the time in the field has really given us a really good edge on tips and tricks, and a good edge on what works and what doesn't work. So we have, when you purchase a tool from us, we have free training and support that comes with that, and we mean what we say in that. We will, I have videos that I do that are a little bit more in depth than this, and we also have live one-on-one trainings with either myself or I have a few other guys that help me with the trainings. So enough of that. I just kind of wanted to give you a background on myself and where we're coming from. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today has been just kind of learned in this process. And I've like I said, I found very good success with this. So my name is at the bottom, also my email. If you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, please let me know. Also, you could just give us a call at 800-774-6102. Or you can look at our website and find some more information there. So I'm going to get into the unit now, and we'll just go through everything that I talked about before. So the Leica 3D DISTO, I call it there's two different types of laser scanning technology. One is a high-density LiDAR scanner, and the other one is a low-density precision scanner. And the low-density precision scanner is what the 3D DISTO is. It is made for fabrication type work. You're going to use this and you're going to take the measurements and you're going to fabricate from those measurements. A high density LiDAR scanner is more meant for the design aspect of things. Like, okay, I want to go in, I want to get a floor plan, might be plus or minus, 6 to 10 millimeters, but that's okay because it's just a floor plan. Or I want to get, an idea of an as-built situation, 6 to 10 millimeters, that's all right. But you're going to have millions of points that you got to sort through if you need to go through this data. And it's going to give you gigabytes worth of files. And, things can add up after time. So those are more prevalent when you're doing the research. The Leica 3D DISTO, it might not be so prevalent in the research, and you might get it confused. I have a lot of people that I talk to. They call me and they're like, well, what's the difference between this and that? And the cost is definitely drastically different. And they're really completely two separate tools. The Leica 3D DISTO runs around $8,000, $8,050 is the price for it. Where these high density scanners are about $20,000, maybe $25,000 with the software. And a lot of people, and this is something just to throw it out there because I get this question so many times. A lot of people go, well, I have the 3D DISTO and I want to upgrade to maybe the Leica BLK 360. It is not an upgrade in any way, shape, or form. They are completely two separate tools. So one is a high density point cloud scanner and one is a low density precision point cloud scanner. It still gives you the same point cloud. But with the 3D DISTO, what you're going to do is you're going to specifically tell the unit what you want to measure, and it's going to give you highly accurate information that you can fabricate from. Or it'll just give you highly accurate information that you can now tell how out your walls are, how out your floor is, you name it, you can figure it out. So what I often do when I'm scanning is, the scan files can look completely different from job to job, all depending on what needs to be done. If you're doing wall paneling on a project versus a countertop versus checking the level of a floor, you're going to have a different looking scan for every single situation. So what I do when I walk into a job is I look at everything. The unit is a visual based unit. So you have to set the unit up to be able to see the points that you want to gather. So I walk into a job and I take a look and I see, okay, how is this going to play out? Well, I want my unit here. I want my unit here. I'm going to relocate here. I'm going to relocate there. Walk out with my scan files. It's going to take a little bit longer to do the scans with a 3D DISTO versus like a BLK 360 or other high density point cloud scanner, but you're going to walk away with exactly the points that you want and very little time processing in the office versus the massive amounts of time to process the other data, the high density data. So the 3D DISTO is behind me. You can see it. I'm in my office right now. You can see my video is my office. I'm at my desk. You can see the unit is behind me over my shoulder. And then down here is a floor plan of my office. You can see I have my desk right here, so that's where I am, desk right there. And then my unit is this red dot, roughly. And then you can see the door behind me with the hat on it, that way, is right here. And then I have another door right there, which you can't see, but it's right there. So just to give you an orientation of the floor plan. What I'm going to do for this demonstration is I'm going to recreate a floor plan of my office, just using the software and the scanner, and then I'll give you an idea, some examples of some things that we've done with the unit so that you can get a feel for maybe a good situation that could fit for your scanning needs. So the unit, basically you put it on a tripod. There are 3 buttons on the top. Excuse me, there are 3 buttons on there's 1 button on the top and 2 LED lights. And you basically, I'm pointing to the wrong part of the screen here. So you basically hit the on button. You get it slightly level. You hit the on button. The unit will go through. It'll level itself. And then once it's green blinking, it's ready to go. These are some of the accessories that come with the unit. Charging items, and then you have some targets, some offset targets that you can see. We'll talk about those as we go through. And then one of the things that I found with this is, the unit itself is nice. This red case is great if you're not really planning on doing much travel. But it only holds the unit. It doesn't hold any accessories. You do need a tablet, a Windows tablet or Windows laptop to be able to run the software. We do not supply those tablets. That's the only thing that we don't supply. We'll give you turnkey solution except for that Windows tablet. We have purchased them before customers in the past, but I don't like to keep the stock of them just because every day they change. So we like to have a Pelican case that goes with it. This is rated for travel on a plane. I've taken it all across the country without any issues. It's got wheels. It's a very great case, and it actually works really well if you want to sit down when you're doing the scanning. Standing there for a little while gets old. And then we have a tripod that we use. It's not there's a Leica 3. I'm doing this. Please Leica, watch this. There's a Leica 3D DISTO tripod. It's nothing more than a standard tripod. It is massively bulky. It's a pain in the butt to bring around to the job sites. It might give you a slight amount more stability, but it's absolutely not worth it. I hate the thing, to be honest with you. And so I found this Manfrotto tripod works wonders. And so we have these in stock that we sell. It's small, it's compact, it fits in a nice tripod case that we sell with it. And I don't know if I have a picture of that, but tripod case, I have a lot of pictures. Yeah, we have a tripod case that we sell with it and an adapter for the 3D DISTO. And here it is on a job site. So you can see, unit works great and you're not having to lug this massive tripod around. So we have a lot of different other tripod options, but each company that we work with is unique, and we work with you on that side of things. So one of the things, I think I said this, it's been a long day, but we do offer free training and support. All right, enough of that. So here's the 3D DISTO. You can see it behind me. And then here is the 3D DISTO software. So I'm going to hop out of here. And when you first open up the software, what happens? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to recreate the floor plan of my office and maybe do some other features so that you can see some of the automated features that it has. And the first thing that you see is a blank screen with the software. I am connected to the unit via USB right now. Usually it's wireless in the field just because of the computer situation. I plugged it in because I'm on my desktop. I plugged it in with USB. And then I actually have a view through the camera. So let me move to the door that I showed you that you couldn't see. So this is the door to my left. And so you can see where the unit is looking. You have a crosshair. Wherever I pick, the unit will go to it to take a measurement. Now, it's not actively taking measurements as I go. When I want to take a measurement, I hit the red button and the measurement will happen. But before I do that, I want to kind of set this file up for success. Recently, actually early 2020, they came out with a new update, version 6 update. It's fantastic. I love it. One of the major benefits with this update is they give you the ability to add layers. This is huge. Anybody who's used the software for years didn't have this ability. It's just wonderful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up some layers for this particular scan. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up one that is called walls, or we could call it wall. I'm going to make the wall layer blue, and maybe we'll do another one that is, countertop, and we'll do this a different color, maybe purple, and we could do one that says floor. And we could do one that says ceiling. If I spell something wrong, I apologize. It's not the greatest at spelling. So we can color code these. We can not color code them. It's up to you. But I'm going to go to my walls first. And the first thing that we need to do whenever we're doing a scan is we need to pick 2 points on the same wall. And all this does is orient the drawing. Everything is going to be taken as an XYZ coordinate point. And these 2 points are going to establish my X and my Y. So what I'm going to do is, remember this is my floor plan of my office. I'm going to take a point here and a point here on this wall. And then when I'm done with my drawing, it'll actually look like my AutoCAD drawing down below. It'll have the same rotation and everything. If I were to pick 2 points on this wall, the whole room would be rotated 90. One thing to note, and I've seen this many times, if I were to take the first point on this wall and the second point on the adjacent wall, my drawing is just going to be crooked. It's not going to screw up the measurements. It's not going to screw up anything except for maybe your head when you're thinking about how you want to measure things because of the fact that everything's crooked. So just a note. So now I'm going to take 2 points on the wall. So now we can hop in here and I'm going to move the unit. So one thing that you don't see, and I'll show you, I think I can show you, is if you look right at my hat, my black gray hat actually, right here, maybe, a little, like right down, yeah. So see this little red dot that you see right there at the bottom of the hat? You can see that's where my unit is looking. So you don't see it in the screen, in the computer part, in the software, I mean, because there's a red laser cancellation feature in there. But in the real world, I'm actually seeing a red dot on the wall. That's the laser measurement part. That's the scanning part. So that is where the measurement is going to be taken. You see a crosshair here, but you also see the red dot. So what I'm going to do is just move it so you're not going to see it on the screen, on the camera, but you'll see it on the screen. I'm going to just move this to a 1 point on the wall, on this short wall here, and I'm going to take a snap. And notice I have a number 1 that appears in the wall layer. Here's my unit now. We have a grid. Notice how that number 1 is aligned with my unit. And when it comes in, it's my 0, 0, 0 point in my XYZ. So the next point, I'm just going to move it over about 5 or 6 feet. Doesn't have to be level. I'm going to take a next point, and then we'll see, hey, I took a point. It was 42 and 25, 30 seconds away. We can now start to see some stats. So from that first point, I'm out of level just a little bit. You know, my XYZ coordinate points are here. Here's my XYZ. And then I'm out of level. Here's how far off I am height-wise. All of these stats are here. When you first turn on the unit, it goes through a leveling sequence. When it's done with the leveling sequence, when you start taking the measurements, the file that it creates is level. So like if I were to pick points on the floor and then I were to bring it into my AutoCAD or my CAD program, I could then measure those points on the floor and I could tell how out of level my floor is in real time. Very handy. I've done fabrication from this, and you go through the whole process and you're like, I can't believe I was able to fabricate and fit so well. So now that I've established my room, so we can turn it in and out of perspective, we can see that that line aligns with the grid. Now I'm going to start taking points. For this particular exercise, because I'm just coming up with a floor plan, I'm just going to take points around the ceiling. So nothing too crazy, just going to take some points around the ceiling. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to just go right up, and this will show up a little bit better in your view because you can see the ceiling kind of line. And I'm going to lock this so that I stay in this view. So you just click it once to get into the viewfinder, click it twice to lock the viewfinder. And now I'm going to go around the room, and what I'm going to do, and this is something that I've learned over the years, is I'm just going to pick points and I'm going to avoid corners. Now I'm only picking the points where the intersections are. If I wanted more detail, I would take more points. So I'm just pointing and clicking. If I wanted to see previous points, I can turn on this little eyeball. And when you're moving this around, I'm just using my mouse, and if you click and hold in the middle, you can kind of like get this arrow and move it around. If in the field I use a touch screen, I'm putting my finger in the middle. That's a whole lot easier to control the unit with my touch screen Windows tablet. So again, I'm avoiding the corners, and I avoid the corners for a few different reasons. One, it's very hard to actually get the unit right dead in the corner. So I could think, and the unit is so accurate, I could think, hey, I've got a really good shot right now, and trying to hit the corner right here. But what if I'm a millimeter to the or half a millimeter to the left or half a millimeter to the right, and that was my only point defining this corner? My whole room could get skewed. Versus the way I'm doing it now, I'm hitting 2 points, and then I'm going to intersect the lines later, and that's going to give me a much more accurate picture. The other reason why I avoid the corners is that's where mud joints are. Usually, like if in this room, which is a sheetrocked room, I could have a mud joint there, and that mud joint could be anywheres from from here all the way into the corner. It could be upwards to 1/4 of an inch of mud that gets laid there, and I've seen that on countless projects. So I'm avoiding those corners to give me a better picture of what's going on. If I were building to that corner, if I was doing a countertop or fitting something there, then I would do an auto scan, and I'd scan it every half an inch, and I'd actually pick up the corner. And we'll see that. We'll see that in a few minutes when there's my pile of paperwork that's messy. We'll see that in a few minutes when I do an auto scan. So I'm going to pick these last 2 corners. There's this guy, and then this is my last point, number 14. It always numbers it, and if we ever needed to, like if I wanted to make sure that, hey, that point number 14 is right there, and I want to remember this, I can always hit the photo button. It'll take a picture of that particular view. And now when I hop out of here, look, now I'm starting to see the floor plan of the office. But this is a whole lot more accurate than what I have here. This is just what I hope it, what I hope it will be. Everything's square and true and nice, but this is reality, so we can see, is it really square, true, and nice, or do I need to make adjustments for whatever I'm building for this room? So one of the things, though, that you'll see how I skipped that corner and it connected it with a line. And also, if I orbit this in 3D, you can see these lines, these points are in 3 dimensions. So it always draws a point from the last to the next. So we can go through and we can edit this. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to draw a point if we wanted to add one. So we can see my floor plan. If I wanted to, I could make this a different layer, but I don't really care right now. And what I'm going to do is look at it from the top, and I'm going to show you something that we can do either here, or we can do it in AutoCAD or CAD later, but I'm going to just delete a couple of these to show you. Now, I really don't want it to connect like this. So what I want to do is I want to select this, and we have a drawing feature button. And we can create those corners automatically. So we just kind of work through this, and we can create the corners this way, or we can work through this in CAD later. I'll save the rest for CAD later. So here's my floor plan. If we want to, we can start pulling, pulling measurements from here. And I'm just drawing lines between points. But we can see it gives us a measurement. But I don't really do the measurement side of things in the software. I'm just gathering the points, making the edits, making the changes, and then I'll do all those measurements and figuring things out in CAD later. So the next thing I want to do is I want to do an auto scan where the countertop is. So maybe we're going to put a countertop in this alcove right here. So I'm going to do an auto scan, and I'm going to go to my auto scan feature, and I'm going to go into scanning linear. So this is going to scan ever so often, however I set that up. This is a scan that will scan a grid. If you were doing like a wall, you want to see if there's a hump in it or something like that, you could do it that way. So I'm going to do a linear scan. And I'm going to do the linear scan horizontally. We can do a horizontal one. We can do a vertical slice. We can do it at an angle. But we're going to do it horizontally. And it's actually going to keep the scan level. So right where countertop would be. Before I do that, though, I want to change it to my countertop layer. And I'm just going to come down just a little bit. And I'm going to go over to where my door is. I have some stuff in the way, so I just want to make sure that I'm going to avoid some things. So I'll come up here. So I don't really need the doorway. You know, counters a certain depth. It's going to play off of this wall that's over here. So this looks like a good spot. So I'm going to hit the DISTO button. And what's going to happen is it's going to say, hey, do you want to scan to the left, to the right, in between 2 points? And I want to just scan it to the right. And it's going to ask me, well, what's your frequency? How many, what do you want to scan it? You want to scan it every half an inch, every inch, 2 inches, 4 inches, 12 inches, or even custom. We'll start with every 2 inches for right now. And then when I get to the corner where that mud joint is, I'm going to change it to every half an inch. So now I'm not doing anything. The unit is automatically leveling, automatically picking every 2 inches, and you can see right up here. It gives you play-by-play. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, but it's giving you a good idea what's going on. Notice when I'm getting close to the corner, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause it, and I'm going to say, hey, let's change the scan interval to every half an inch now. And now it's going to go through and give me a denser scan there to let me know what's going on with that mud joint. Now, you can't go any less than half an inch, but what I have found, if you need it, and I think I've found the need for this in one project, and I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of projects, if not thousands. So what I found is if you needed to go like maybe 1/4 of an inch, you could always scan it at half an inch and then come back, go to the middle of the point because you can see the points, and then scan it at another half an inch, and you get 1/4 inch scan if needed. But again, I wouldn't mess with that. So I'm going to change the scan interval. Now I want to bump it up, but I don't want to go 2 or 4, and I don't want to jump all the way to 12. So this is a good spot for custom, and we'll do a custom every 5 inches. Can't do decimals, so it's just going to be 5 inches. So now it's gonna scan every 5 inches for this straight wall. And once we get to the edge, we'll change it again to that half an inch scan. If you ever needed to, and I've had to do this on many occasions, when you're on the job site, people are walking in front of you because they don't realize that you're scanning. You just always keep your finger, excuse me, you always keep your finger on the pause button. So if somebody gets in your way or you need to change it, you can pause it. Change the scan interval. I'm going to change it to 1 inch for a few shots. 5 inches was going to get us too close. Ooh. That's bad. Usually, there we go. Sometimes the unit gets a little lost, like it just did. No big deal. Sometimes it gets lost and it keeps doing what it's, trying to find it. I don't know why. Sometimes I've noticed it when you're scanning, like, and you change drastically the intervals. Like I just went from 5 to half an inch, and it's like, hey, what's going on? That's throwing it for a loop, but it's fine. You can just pause it, skip the rest, and then just start another scan right where you left off. So there's my half inch. Let's change this now to 2. And we're going to wrap around this corner, and then we'll take a look at that in the file once we get done. So here's, and it's keeping it level, like I said before. So we're going to change that scan interval back to half an inch. And so as it's going around, like it's really where you would install a countertop. So you don't really have to do anything in terms of a change. I always, if I'm scanning a countertop, I'll say, okay, my countertop is 36 inches off the floor. I'll measure 36 inches, and I'll go right to there, or I'll go just a little bit below that, so I know it's going to be right where the counter is going to be installed. So here, this looks good. I'm going to hit pause, and I'm going to hit skip the rest. And I'm going to hit always ask you this if you want to edit the scan, and the answer to this is always, always, always no. I do this, I repeat that in the training. I make it a point because I've had that burn me in the past. If you hit yes and you forget to hit save, then it'll erase the scan that we just did. So always hit no. So now when you do an auto scan, it always connects it with a line. I'm just going to trash that first line. And we're going to zoom in and see what's going on here. So look, this is where the corner was clipped, so we can trash that line. And then we can connect the dots here. What you're seeing that comes up for a second is a help thing or a help text. 2, this looks a little like, you know, you look at this and I go, oh, which one is this one off just a little bit, or this one? This one looks a little bit more severe, so I can trash this and then complete that. But if they're both a little off, you know, this is a 1/2 inch interval. I probably could delete this one and then pull it that way. I'm going to leave it at that for right now. But we have some play there. And then here, last one on this is we'll delete that line and we'll connect to these guys. Again, we can do all of this in the CAD side of things, but I like showing people that you have the ability to do it right here in the software. So there's a more detailed scan of what the walls are, and see how that lines up with where I scanned on the top. It's just not as refined. Oops. No. I forgot to hit delete. It's just not not precise. It's not as detailed as our automated scan, because our automated scan has a more frequent scanning pattern. Oops. This is just like AutoCAD 2. Like if you did what I just did where I got turned around, we can now zoom in and zoom out and see what's going on. Oh, it looks like these 2 points it added as my countertop layer because I'm in that layer. So we can do a couple of things. We can just trash these point, and we could change it back to our wall layer. Unfortunately, I haven't found a way to change the layers after it's been drawn. So that's one way to do it. Or I could have just deleted those lines and just redrew them. So there's my walls. The last thing I want to do, the last couple of things I want to do is I want to just grab a couple points on the floor and a couple points on the ceiling. And maybe we'll do, so we're doing the floor first. So this doesn't really matter. I'm just going to hit 1, 2, and 3. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to ceiling. And I'm going to go, oops, I'm going to come back. Didn't want to show you that yet. And I'm going to do 3 points on the ceiling, relatively in the same spot. Oops. Blocking. So this has got, I'm not going to touch on all of the features, obviously. But hopefully this is going to give you an idea. So here's a little fun thing that happens. So now I've kind of like done some of these drawings, but you can see we got these lines that are connecting it. We're just going to trash them. So trash that guy. Let's trash this guy. Let's draw, oops, let's undo that. Undo. Let's draw a line connecting the ceiling. And let's change to floor and draw a line here. So here we could see, you know, here's my floor and my ceiling. If I wanted to, I could draw a line that connects it. And in the stats of the line, I could see, hey, look, my height changes by 96 1/8. So we can see what the ceiling height is from there. Or we could just leave it and do that in CAD later. The last thing I want to do is I want to just show you, and I won't show you too much of this. I'll just kind of show you another thought is maybe I want to do this window. Okay, and this window will make maybe a red. And I don't have my DISTO set up in the right spot, so I'll probably just hit a few points. But hopefully this will give you an idea of what's going on. So like here in the window, it's going to give us, I'm going to just hit in the inside because I just want the opening. So I'm going to measure and almost do the same thing like I was doing with the ceiling. But in this case, we're going to just hit the corners of the window. Sometimes too, you can see the sheen that's on this paint. If you're measuring a surface that is highly reflective or that has, you know, like a really glossy paint to it, anything that's going to have that reflection issue, you might want to I bring a couple rolls of painter's tape with me, and I'll put that on a surface that I'm slightly concerned with. So you'll see too, when I'm making this scan or taking these points, I don't really care if I'm going in or out that much. Doesn't really matter, because when I'm all said and done, I'm going to be looking at this information from the front view, which is going to give us, you know, these points, whether they're in or out a half an inch. If I look at it from the right perspective, is going to give us the window opening. So it's going to be hard to throw the bottom in here, so I'll just hit a point just to get it. Again, if I were actually scanning the window, I would have set the unit up just a little bit higher because I can't see it. You see what you scan. One thing that you could use, and I'm not going to do it now just for time, is you could use something like this, which is an offset target. So you put this on where you want it to go, and you hit this point, and you hit this point, and it knows what the distance is between everything. So once these 2 points are captured, it'll tell you what that point is. So that's what this little guy is here. You can also use another type of target that comes with it, which this just pops out and pops in. And you can use this to like catch up to an edge, and you hit this side. So have a few options there with targets. So let's see what this window looks like. Okay, so here we can see our window, and I'm going to just do some editing here. And if we want to, we can maybe square this out. I'm actually curious. Yep. So we could square that window out, or we could just see it. So if I were to look at this from the right view, we could see there's a window. If I were to look at it from the top view, we could see, yeah, we got some deviations in and out, but it doesn't really matter because I'm always going to look at it from the right. So here's just like I said, this is just a brief overview of what's going on. And what I'm going to do now is save it. And I'm going to save it as, okay. And yeah, and we'll save this as Jen. Okay. And now that it's saved, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to File. I think I spelled that wrong, but that's all right. And hit Export, and it's going to create a DXF file for me. And we're going to hop into AutoCAD, and we're going to take a look at that. So when I hop into AutoCAD, you'll see the logos and stuff are still there, but it shouldn't cause too many issues being in the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my computer, and I'm going to go to where that's saved, and then I'll bring it. I got a few monitors here, so if I disappear for a second, that's where I'm going. So I have an export folder in my computer, and we can find the one that says General Demo. And look, I have a snapshot. So here's that photo that I took. 14 gives me a little idea, gives me the crosshair. And I have a CSV and a DWG and some DXFs. So the DWG is what we want to open. If you were doing a non-AutoCAD, I'm using AutoCAD 2022. If you're not, using a different CAD software, you just open up either DWG or DXF. So now I'm going to just pull this over and open it up in AutoCAD. And I'm going to zoom extents, and we're going to see the same view that we get when we're looking at the software. So similar concept. The only thing is the points are a little bit bigger. No big deal. And the names are a little bit different too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm going to take these guys and just kind of process this a little bit so you can get an idea of what's going on and how you're like, okay, this is great, I can see the information, but how am I going to use the information? What's the next step? So and I'll do this quick because I know we're getting late on time here. I'll do this quick, and then if you have any questions or you have any more thoughts, we can set up a one-on-one live session where I can go through things with you, or a phone call, or anything that we can just take a look at it in more detail. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off some of these extra layers. I don't need the points layer. I don't need the actual points. Wherever you see one of these X's is where a measurement took place. Okay. I don't need to see the countertop layer yet. We're going to come back to that. And the pictures I don't need, neither of these guys. So I really just want to look at the walls for right now. So I'm going to copy just those walls, and I'm going to copy it over 250 inches. And then I'm going to turn all the layers back on, and I want to isolate a certain layer, and it's going to be this countertop layer. Okay, and then I'm going to grab this. This is why layering is so nice. And I'm going to copy it over 500. And I'm going to turn all the layers back on again. Oops, this one. So now we have my room, and we have my floor plan, and we have my countertop. We'll come back to the window in a second. But these are still in 3D. If I were to orbit this, we'll see, look, there's kind of like some changes. There's some things happening. I don't know what's going on with this, but it looks like this was a glitch. This I don't really care about because that's just my reference. So what I'm going to do is, now that I've cleaned those up, I'm going to take this and I'm going to type in the command flatten, F-L-A-T-T-E-N. That is one I know how to spell. And I want to say no to my hidden lines. And what now I can do is, all of this information has now just been flattened. See where the other one was and now where this one is? And so now I can start to process this and start to clean this up. So I'm going to just clean this up with some, squaring out the corners. Maybe we can get rid of that. We can get rid of this. We can come up here. So there's my corner squared there. We kind of already squared the corners out here in the software. I'm going to finish that thought with the one I was doing here. I don't know. I don't like the way that looks. So we'll delete that. So we got that corner square. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to just take all these and I want to join them together and make one continuous polyline. So now let's look at, and remember, everything was square and true to the file. So we can take a look at this and we can start to kind of decipher this. So I'm going to throw in some X lines. And I'm going to do X line horizontal. Doesn't really matter what layer you're in. Okay, and let's do an X line vertical. So these X line horizontal, X line vertical is going to give us a true 90 degree, which is our representation of. But look, you can see, hey, look, this is straight, and look how the room veers off. Well, maybe my room needs to be straightened out, but let's keep going and see. So we'll pick here, and we'll do another X line horizontal. So notice, watch, this is cool. See how this wall and this wall are parallel? But this wall and this wall, so my whole entire office is racked sideways. Fantastic. I paid good money for this office too. So so what we need, so this is telling us what we kind of need to think about. So I can even go to the extent of measuring, like, oh, well, how far out of square is my office? Okay, it's an inch. This wall kicks in an inch in almost a 32nd. This wall behind me kicks out almost, I think, about the same. So no, an inch and 3/16. So if I were to build cabinets that were square, right? So say I have a square cabinet that is 30 by 20. Oops. Let's do it the other way. So just a 20-inch deep cabinet, and my cabinets are square, true, and nice. And I want to align these up with my wall. If I were to do this without understanding that this wall is out of square, I might, I might throw this at a, let's see. I might have to throw this at an angle, and then I'll be like, well, why is my cabinet off over here? Or what, what's happening to make me have to make these changes? Or I could just do it like this and know that that's going to give me a nice square connection with the cabinets that are going here. And those cabinets are going to work along this wall with a square interaction versus having this line up at an angle. And then here, maybe I could throw in a scribe that's going to pick up the slack. So I can essentially make my design / fabrication decisions right here before I even touch the project, before I even get there to install. So that's one concept. The other concept is like this countertop, where actually I want to follow the contours of the wall. So my countertop is supposed to end here, right? And then I want to say, hey, I want the countertop to be cut to what's going on with the wall, but I actually want to cut it at about a 1/16 of an inch offset. So I zoom in, I offset towards the inside, and then we do some trimming AutoCAD work here. Okay, and then I'm going to do, again, some trimming AutoCAD work here, or CAD work. Everything that I do here, I've done in other softwares too. So actually now, this is what I would cut my countertop to, even though that this is the wall. So we could actually change this to walls again. So this purple or pink would be, I would copy this, and that's what I'd cut on my CNC machine. And now when I get to the job site, that will literally just fall into place. So, and on the window side of things, like, okay, everything I've done so far has just been floor plan. Well, on the window, the floor, and the ceiling, what I do is I look at it from the front and then from the right. And you can see my floor and my ceiling. And maybe we could turn off the wall layer and turn off these guys. Just going to turn off the countertop layer and the photo. Why is that doing that? Oh, because it's my current layer. Gotcha. We'll go to layer 0. We'll turn off the countertop layer. And now I'm just left with my floor and ceiling, so I could measure. And the problem is, though, if I were to draw a line or try to do any editing, look, I'm still in the world UCS, so I want to just change my UCS to view. And now see how this says top. So now I can do my rectangles like I would normally. I can draw like I would normally, and I can measure. So I can measure, I can measure from floor to ceiling. So my height change is, or sorry, my Y is what it would be, is 96.14. And now I can look at this too, and I can say, hey, I want to take this, and I could copy it or I could flatten it. No. And we could come up with window sizes right from here. So we can square these corners out. And if I were to maybe fit, if I was fitting a piece of glass in here, right? And that's my wood. And now I can join this. And maybe my wood thickness is 3/4 of an inch, and this is where the sill would go. Now I can draw a rectangle in here. And see, if I were to cut a square piece of glass, would it fit in this opening? Look, the answer is most definitely it would have to be smaller than you would think. If I were to just take a width and a depth, let's just do that. So if I were to dimension and say, okay, my width of my window is roughly 71.25, and my height is roughly, 35. I could do a rectangle that is 71.25 by 35, and then I would say, okay, yeah, that's what my measurements were with a tape measure, but when I go to install it, look, I'm pinching right up here because this is out of square. So I can now install it. Let me go back to my... I can now install it in AutoCAD or in CAD and make the determination that, oh crap, that's not going to work. I'm going to need to say, hey, let's bring this in 1/4 of an inch, and let's bring this down maybe an 1/8 of an inch. And we can then start to look at this and go, okay, all right. If I were to put this in place, I'm going to move it right out. And I'm going to move this from here to the center. Now I can look and see, hey, look, yeah, it's going to miss. It's going to miss everywhere, you know. Or personally, I would throw in another 1/16 of an inch offset. And now I know I'm really good. And, you know, we could even go to the extreme of, okay, well, if this was actually touching that bottom and look how off it is, maybe this, you know, it's going to rotate the glass, being a little bit particular on this glass, but I think this can help understand. So now my glass is sitting on the actual sill the way it's supposed to be, and I can look to see, okay, it looks like my glass is completely captured by this 3/4 of an inch stop, and everything looks good. So this is just like I said, a quick glimpse at what the 3D Disto can do, at the software, at how you would use this information. I'm going to go over just a few other things as a side, not a side, but as a just kind of an idea of some things that we've done, so you can get a concept of this. So, you know, here's a thought. This was a restaurant, and we were doing handrail on top of here, and we were actually doing millwork on the face of that. And so that's what it looked like. And the scan, where did the scan data go on that? This is what it ended up with. So here's my railings. Here's my curved fronts. And then I was able to take that and process it. Here's another scan that kind of turned out really well. This was a penthouse suite. And I scanned all the walls because we were doing wall paneling. Here's another little room so you can see. I color coded the walls so that we could see the twist to the walls. That really helped. And then in the end, what we ended up doing is we had they fabricated these high gloss panels to go in there. And if it wasn't for our measurements, they would have had to do cutting in the field. And that cutting in the field would have resulted in a lot of money spent in high gloss finish. Because everything, literally everything is... there's no room for error. And this was a nice curve guy. So, you know, you can really get into a lot of different things, or you could just do countertops all the way from start to finish. I actually I did some installs for some countertops recently. It came out really well. This was glass work that I did for a company where we actually they had to cut the glass to fit openings. This is actually a room that I did in my basement. I did a partition up in my basement, and I scanned exactly where this wall was going. I drew the entire thing in AutoCAD. I cut listed everything in AutoCAD, cut all the parts and pieces in my shop, and I was able to drop them in place. They were all labeled. I assembled it, wall lifted, and perfectly fit into place. So, and my wall is 100% square and true and nice, 100%. So, fantastic. It was fantastic for that. And I even had a customer send me some pictures from stonework. Again, think anything fabrication. Stonework, glasswork, countertops, windows, doors, stairs, you name it. You can come up with some really cool things that the 3D Disto can help. So, please let me know if you have any questions. Please let me know if this was helpful. Take a look at it. I'm happy to help. The number here is 800-774-6102. You can always email me. You can always email my assistant, noah.a@advanceddimensions.com. If for some reason you're not getting through to me, sometimes I'm here and there when we're doing scanning. Yeah, please let me know if you have any questions. I'm glad I could do this video for you, and we'll talk to you next time.